Hey,
What's
welcome
up?
back to another episode of East County Voices. What's up? I gotta change that banner. It says Thursdays.
Oh
So anyway,
shoot, yeah.
welcome in everybody. We got Miss Patty, we got Frank. What's good? What's good today? What's good tonight?
I just woke up from a little nap. What's good
Oh,
tonight? Oh my gosh, you guys, where do we even start?
we
Today's
got
Wednesday. We switched our days. Hello, welcome.
welcome.
We have a lot to talk about tonight. Where do we start? Let's start off with community updates, things to look forward to. We'll do some guest introductions. There's no agenda tonight, but it's important that we lift up the people of Palestine. Frank has always been an amazing advocate. And this weekend, the grassroots poetry is going to dedicate the poetry night to the people of Palestine. So we will be hearing just some updates, hearing some poetry from a poet, and Frank can tell us more about him. But let's start with community updates. Last week we had tents and tacos. The city of Antioch had a trunk or treat. What else did we have? The board of supervisors made a big decision yesterday, which is amazing. Investing in the communities with guaranteed income. Nothing new. There's been like over 150 pilots across the nation, and this is a form of economic justice to close the gap. So it's amazing that we had the 4 votes we needed in order to pass it for the people. Elections are up, register to vote. What else?
Welcome
Hello,
in.
welcome. Do we have any more community updates? Nicole will be coming in, I believe, at some time today to give us some more info on voting, where we're at with that, on efforts in our community. What else? I think that's it. Let's get into and introduce our guests of the night. Thank you all for being here tonight. This is our East County Voices show, made possible by our one and only Don Carlos Tacos, because it takes a team effort to make this happen. Frank is one of our amazing co-hosts. A powerful voice in our community, and we created this space so that we can have these community conversations and keep up to date with what's going on. Otherwise, we get lost in online things, and if we don't talk about it, well, we'll never figure it out and uplift the voices that are voiceless. So go ahead, Frank, if you'd like to introduce our guests. Welcome.
Hey, how y'all doing? Franklin here, and thank you to our guests for joining us. I'm actually just meeting a couple of our guests here tonight. Maybe I met Julie, I'm not sure, but I know we've been in some group chats together, and I've been part of a large group called Contra Costa for Palestine, and it's about it's probably a bit more like 50 or 60 people text message group, and what we do is we communicate with our solidarity work around Palestine community events and what's happening. And as Patty mentioned, this Friday, I'll throw it out there again real quick, at the Grassroots Poetry Open Mic here in Antioch. Jose Cordon of Cordon Concepts has agreed to dub the theme of the night From the River to the Sea. And so we're hoping people will come out with their poems for Palestine. And that is we're still working on vendors. So if you two know that I'm searching for vendors, we haven't had anyone of the Palestinian vendors confirm that we've reached out to. So we might have to cancel the vendor part, but I got to check in with Jose tomorrow. So in the background, Julie, and tell me how to say your name, Yosra. Oh, can you guys hear her?
No.
Oh, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Yosra unmute.
There you
she's
go.
unmuted.
Oh, wait. Yeah, she's unmuted, but
maybe allow it to use your microphone. I will keep talking while you work on it, and then when you make noise, we'll hear you. And
turn on
okay.
mic access.
Oh, there you are.
Okay,
There
can
you
you
are.
guys hear me now? Oh,
Hey.
sorry, I had some sort of settings on the computer. I was saying for sure we can help you with vendors, so touch base with us. We can definitely reach out and try to get you some vendors for your event.
That's awesome.
We have been truly blessed this past year to make some amazing connections and just really come together in community for this past year since we started our organization. And yes, my name is pronounced Yosra, so you said it right. Thank you for that. So I guess I could just introduce our organization real quick. Our organization is called Soul of My Soul Exhibits. And we started out as holding pop-up art exhibits in public spaces. And the reason why we started this organization, we're a little bit new. We actually didn't know each other before December, January. And what happened was we were feeling very frustrated by the lack of media coverage about what was happening in Gaza. And at that point, I believe it was 10,000 children had been killed. And we were just in awe that the media did not mention this at all. It feels like they were still stuck on October 7, even though it was December by that point. So we decided we would hold an art exhibit in public spaces where people just kind of stumble upon our exhibits and learn something new. And all the artwork that was on display was created by local children in our community. And we asked them to express themselves in relation to Palestine. And the artwork we received back was just amazing. It was very deep. Sometimes we think children don't process things or don't know things. A lot of parents came back to me and they're like, my child told me about this issue, and I had no idea they even knew this. Like one child, I think, was talking about how children in Palestine in Gaza are being starved, and she had no clue her child knew this. So it opened up a lot of conversations between families, within the families, and also just within our community. It was so beautiful to see at our art exhibit people from all sorts of different backgrounds, people who would not normally interact with each other, having these just raw conversations. The way we described it is we kind of stripped away the politics of it all, and people were just free to be human with each other and get this off their chest, talk about how it's impacting them. And so that's how we started, and we've held exhibits. Our first one was in Pleasanton. We've held them in Lafayette, in Livermore, Morgan Hill. We've done kind of like mini exhibits in San Jose and Walnut Creek. And then also we do a lot of tabling, which Julie can tell you more about. During the encampments, she was tabling everywhere, where we just have like a little setup explaining a bit about what we do. Our goal is to promote conversations about Palestine through arts and culture. And since then, we've also held 2 events called From the Front Lines, where we brought Dr. Mohammed Subeh, who went to Gaza on a medical mission. And actually, since our event, he went back to Gaza a second time. And I think he's now in Lebanon or just coming back from Lebanon. And we allowed people to hear stories from local Palestinians within their community, talking about their experience with the occupation and with the apartheid. And then they also heard from Dr. Mohammed Subeh about his more recent experience. And we invited so many different organizations to come table, and people were they're like, I didn't even know this organization existed. It's local and it's in my community. And so just kind of promoting these community connections and raising awareness and continuing education about the issue. So that's Soul of My Soul exhibit in, I've been talking for a long time, but as briefly as I possibly could. And so one of our, part of raising awareness is we wanted to do this screening of Where Olive Trees Weep. And Julie actually brought up the idea of holding it in a local cinema. So maybe Julie could take it from here and explain to you what happened with her.
Yeah,
Hi, everyone.
And Julie, please introduce yourself and tell us, what kind of work you do if you're with an organization. And then, yes, tell us about the organizing of this film screening and what ensued after that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Franklin. Really happy to be here with all of you. So my background is actually in the health industry, but I became a part of Soul of My Soul when I attended the event in Pleasanton. And I met with one of the founders, and I got to hear her story, and then also the story of her aunt who had survived the Nakba um, back in 1948. And to even like for me, as just the average American, I had no idea. I had never even heard of like Nakba. Like what does that even mean? Like what are you talking about? And then when it was described to me and told me what happened, I was floored, right? Like you it's like a gut punch. You go, "Oh God, I didn't know this. How did I not know this?" I'm like I feel like I'm a good human being. Like I feel like I'm fairly educated. Like how did I not know this? um, and then decided, well, if I could be a part of this, I would love to be a part of this and help in any way because I love being an ally, and I just wanted to do something. And I'm a mom, and and my husband is Egyptian, so we watch Al Jazeera. We might even watch Al Jazeera in Arabic. And so we were seeing the full story. You know, you would click to these other media outlets and you would just see other stories. And it was like, what? How are they? How is CNN? How are they showing a different story? And they're not even telling this story. So I felt very compelled as a mother, as a human being, as just someone who appreciates facts. That I wanted to be involved in the Soul of My Soul exhibit. So that's what I did. I jumped in. And then actually, when I started doing that, the original founder, she had or she has family in Gaza, and when people are enduring that type of trauma day in and day out, you don't have time to do activism work. You don't. You're tapped out. So then I stepped in and tried to help as much as I could, and which is what brought me to hosting events in Livermore because Livermore needs events like this. Uh, they're trying in different ways to bring different voices to the community, and the Arab and Palestinian voices need to be amplified. Does that answer your question? I know it's a lot.
Yes. Now, I had to unmute. Tell us about the film Where Olive Trees Weep and what story, briefly what story it tells. And there's a little controversy that happened when you had booked a private theater or a community theater to show this film. So tell us what happened. But first, tell us a little bit of, the thumbnail of what the film is about.
Okay, great. So Where Olive Trees Weep is it's a documentary that helps you to step inside Palestine. It's not one of these fast action films. It's this story. You literally feel as though you step into Palestine and you get to sit beside a Palestinian farmer explaining what it's like to have violent settlers attacking your home, trying to destroy your home day after day, what that's like. You hear the average Palestinian of what it's like to live by these apartheid walls and within this apartheid systemic complex. So it's really the Palestinians through their lens, through their voices, telling the story of what it's like to be a Palestinian. So it's a very touching documentary. And like Yostra said, with our art, it's not an overtly political film. It's something that's actually being shown at the Lincoln Library in Springfield, Illinois, next week. It's also going to be shown at the Harriet Tubman Center for Social Justice in Los Angeles in early November. This is being shown in Singapore right now this week. It's being shown in Germany and Australia. It's a global film for everyone to see. And I felt it was important to bring it to Livermore. And I'm part of the interfaith community here in the Tri-Valley area. And we felt it was important to bring a film like this to a space that is not based on religion. It could be of people of any faith or no faith. And that was very important to me because of the interfaith work that I do. I just wanted everyone to feel like they could come. And then when the word got out, however that got out, and hate groups started to come in and basically created a targeted email attack for the independent theater here in Livermore, to the point where he was threatened and bullied to the point where he felt like his business would be destroyed if he were to show this film. And so he canceled. I mean, when people bully you to the point where you're like, I'm an independent business, I'm a small business owner, I cannot lose my business, and I can't lose the livelihood for my staff. That's where he was pushed to, and it was just heart wrenching to see that happen. Yeah.
And that comes on the heels, I would not even say on the heels, but of a long systemic challenges with people that try to speak out for Palestine. School teachers can lose their jobs. You might lose your job wherever you're at if you speak out or wear a Palestinian lapel pin as I think a Delta flight attendant. There's numerous stories of this intimidation. And I know there's a little more to it. Julie, can you kind of carry us on to where we are now with the film? A new church or a theater is offering to take place of the cancellation. So tell us who actually agreed to take this up, and when and where can people see the film?
Yeah, so we were fortunate in the fact that we had an alliance again through the interfaith work with Asbury United Methodist Church here in Livermore, and they are already helping us to host a celebration of Palestinian culture that's happening on Saturday, October 26th, 2 to 4 p.m. But when I came back to them and I said, oh my gosh, you guys, like, we have no place for this film. We only have 5 days left to go. Could we show the film at your church? And they said yes, we could do that. They couldn't do it at the same time that we had wanted it previously, but they offered to let us screen it shortly after that Palestinian celebration day. So that's what will happen. I was so relieved that they agreed to hold it. So it will be at this Saturday at Asbury United Methodist Church in Livermore at 4:30 p.m. And we're just so grateful to them. But they were also, once word got out that they were hosting it, then they were also attacked by a tremendous amount of emails. And actually the city council, they were CC'd on all of this. So then our local officials were all in on this attack and seeing these, thousands of emails that were flooding in to the city, basically. So it became a citywide issue. And I think how it feels to me right now is it feels like there is a step forward in healing, and it feels like it's not really coming from Livermore, which I was grateful for because I live here. That would totally suck if I knew that thousands of people here didn't want this. That would be really tough. But thankfully, it was more of an East Coast propaganda machine that churns these out. So that was a bit of a relief, but no, it was just, we're very grateful that we'll get to show the film this Saturday, plus have a celebration beforehand. So it really feels, it feels good. It feels better. Monday was not a good day, but yeah, we're getting there.
To add on to Julie's comments, like on Monday when the cinema owner canceled our reservation, we had at that point 75 tickets sold, which is pretty significant for an independent film screening. And so Julie insisted that I was thinking, let's just cancel. Let's see what we could do. She's like, no, let's try to make it happen because, we have all these people who were waiting to see the movie. And she made it work. She made it happen, and she found an alternative, venue to screen it for us. And so, and we started a petition just kind of showing support for the church. We were thinking, how could we show support for this church? We thought about maybe asking people to email them, but we're like, they hate their email right now. They want to chuck their phone out the window. So let's not do that to them. So we started a petition, and I think before, like an hour ago, it was like at 890 signatures, something like that. And that's just like it started yesterday or something. So it just shows there's a huge local support locally for this movie and for this screening to happen. And we are very blessed to be partnered. We've partnered with Jewish Voices for Peace in the past for several of our events, and they actually when we first started planning for this movie, we had asked them to table at our events, and they were set to table at our events. So They were very supportive, and they sent out our petition to their mailing list, and they've just been amazing to work with. And it just goes to show that, here, this is kind of, it goes back to why we started Soul of My Soul exhibit, and the way we started our our goal of raising awareness, why we did it through like art exhibits that we don't have to specifically mention Palestine, because people were getting shut down for mentioning Palestine, right? So it just goes again to show, I'm not Palestinian, but for Palestinians, this is the struggle. Anytime they just want to celebrate their culture, their heritage, where they're from, just saying I'm Palestinian, all of a sudden it's controversial, right? So it just goes back to show like how it's an uphill battle for them, and for us as allies especially, we have to just keep pushing forward through all of this, all of this noise, really, and just getting the message across.
Yeah. Well, and I'll mention this too. So the 3 areas that this email target, they said it was, this film has hate speech in it. It features terrorists, which is always a lovely word to hear from a group, right? And then it was anti-Semitic. So that's why when Yosser was mentioning the Jewish Voices for Peace, when Jewish Voices for Peace shows up at events, some people even still think that they're anti-Semitic, but our point in all of this is we welcome our Jewish brothers and sisters. We welcome anyone of any faith and any background to our events, because this is art. This is living history. And we want everybody to feel that they are a part of this, because as we all know, we're all kind of part of this colonial project. So we have to find our spaces to support one another and stay united.
And real quick, can you remind people the date, time, and location of this event so they could know where to be and what time to be there?
Absolutely. So the event that's happening, the 2 events. So the first one is the Celebrating Palestinian Culture. That's from 2 to 4 p.m. this Saturday. And that is at Asbury United Methodist Church. It's 4743 East Avenue in Livermore 94550. Again, it's Asbury United Methodist Church in Livermore. So 2 to 4 p.m. for the celebration. And then 4:30, the film screening starts. And we'll actually have the executive director, Ashira Darwish, who is a Palestinian journal and healer. She will be with us for that event, and also for the film screening for a Q&A. So it's going to be really good. I'm really looking forward to this.
And
So,
I just to add on to that, if you can't make it to Livermore this Saturday, the film is actually available for free to stream. I mean, hearing all this craziness, like, people don't have anything better to do with their time except target this film. It makes you really wonder, what is it that they're trying to keep you from seeing, So go ahead and visit the website, which is whereolivetreesweep.com, and you could see the movie for free. They ask you to put in your email address and a donation if you can, but you can select the donation amount to be $0 if money is tight, and just stream it at home and watch it yourself.
Definitely. Well, thank you for that information. And let me just get ready to wrap up kind of this portion of it. We're going to continue our conversation and talk more about the upcoming Poet event happening. You're welcome to stay on. But let me get you both to talk about real quick, in your opinion, why it's so important right now that we share these stories. And I know that a lot of us are familiar with what's going on right now, but a lot of people don't really get the news on what's really happening in northern Gaza right now. And if people haven't really been following that, they basically have not had no journalists there, because they've killed most of them. They've cut off the internet in any way to communicate with the outside world. And they've started rounding up like all the groups of people that are left in like a totally devastated terrain area. Imagine like a nuclear bomb going off and the buildings being totally destroyed, and people still living there with no real water. No food has been let in at all. No aid trucks at all in October. And even before that, very little. People are actually starving right now. And, they've been starving, but it's really getting tight in northern Gaza with this media blackout. Stories of entire groups of like city blocks being round up, and the women children being separated from the men, and the men being led away, and the women and children just told to go south. Um, it's so terrible right now, and it's so hard to actually get the news, not only just out of northern Gaza because of their blackout, but from people that get word from their relatives of what's happening, or even the occupation forces themselves when they share video. I think that was one of their drone videos. If you didn't see the film, there was like a hovering drone that flew over masses, probably like 200 or 300 people, and you could tell they were in different stages of separation. The whole landscape was totally devastated, crumbled buildings, and the only thing around them was like a couple of tanks pointing in their direction. It's so unbelievable, but it's happening right before our eyes. So I know I kind of made it my story of why it's so important to share these voices at these times. But in your opinion, tell us why you think it's so important at this time to be able to share these stories, like Where Olive Trees Weep, and the story we didn't even tell folks that don't know the story of the name of your organization, Soul of My Soul. I think that was it Reen, or so many different names.
Yes, it was Reem. You are correct. The story of our exhibit name is there was a Palestinian grandfather in Gaza very early on, I believe it was in November, who was just holding his granddaughter in his arms, and he was just,
It was his dead granddaughter. That's who it was. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, his granddaughter had been killed by Israeli airstrikes, and he was just holding her lifeless body and stroking her hair and just kind of reminiscing about memories with her. And he called her the soul of his soul. He said, "This is the soul of my soul, Reem." And her brother, we found out later, was also killed. So he lost 2 grandchildren that day. And the reason why these stories are important is because there is an active campaign to exterminate the Palestinian people and to erase them and their stories. So a lot of times we watch these things and we feel so helpless, and we think, well, what can we do? We're over here. What can we do? But you speaking out about it and sharing information about it and educating yourself about it is helpful, because there is an active campaign to end the term Palestinian, the identity of Palestinians. So we have to keep, raising awareness and talking about these stories in general. But specifically regarding Where Olive Trees Weep, we've noticed in a lot of our work, even allies who are marching for ceasefires weekly and bannering on the freeways, they don't know about the West Bank, and they don't know about the apartheid in the West Bank. There is a little bit of an education gap amongst allies regarding how the occupation just really, it's in every single part of a Palestinian's life. So it's good for you as an ally to be educated about the West Bank as well, because if there's a ceasefire tomorrow, that's not the end of the story. There's still more work that needs to be done. So that's kind of my view on it. Julie, I don't know if you want to add something.
Sorry, my head was spinning. You want to go in so many directions. I think at the end of the day, this is about the stories that we will tell our children, and these are the stories that we will tell our grandchildren. So when slavery was happening, we couldn't do anything about that. When there were those that were walking the Trail of Tears, we could not offer them something to drink. We could not offer to do anything for those Native Americans that were banished from. We couldn't be there to help the wounded after they were driven out from their homes and put on reservations. We weren't there. We weren't that part of history, but where we are today, we are in this part of history. We are watching ethnic cleansing happening. We're watching a genocide. Dr. Gabor Mate, who is one of the producers of Where Olive Trees Weep, he has recently come out and said, this is Auschwitz on TikTok. We are watching a Holocaust, a Nakba in real time. And as human beings, we have to answer to our children and grandchildren, what did you do? What did you do when you saw this happening? And if you decided to look away, then that's your choice. But that will be your moral dilemma when your grandchildren ask you that question. Where were you, Grandpa? Where were you, Grandma? Where were you, Auntie, when this was happening? What did you do? Did you stand up for them? Did you march for them? So that's what I want for myself, is I feel that I want to be able to say, you know what, honey, I couldn't do it all, but I did something. I just did something. And that's what all of us can do. Each of us can do something.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Julie Wild and Yazra. Help me with your last name so I don't do it wrong.
It's Abdelaziz.
Abdelaziz. It's just like it looks.
Just like it's spelled. Yeah.
It's always so amazing. And well, thank you so much, Yazra Abdelaziz.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And you're totally welcome to stick around, because we're going to talk about what's coming up in Antioch. I think that's where we're going, if you guys are cool with that, which is the open mic poetry night put on by Jose Cordon. Is going to be dedicated. Well, we're hoping people will come and speak poems for Palestine. And to kick us off, I'm going to go to a different screen on my side and introduce this poem. Carlos, are we going to be able to play it? He's on mute. It sounds like he says he's going to try. But so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Just tell me when.
Okay. I'm going to read a little bit about the poet. If I could see my screen, because my glasses aren't reading glasses. Let me see here. Okay. So yeah. Coming up this Friday, we're going to have the night dedicated, the open mic at Grassroots Poetry Open Mic Night dedicated to Palestine. And to kick off our little segment, before we talk about that, we're going to hear someone reading the poet by Palestinian poet Rifat Al-Arir. And you guys can correct me if I get that wrong. And I'll read just his Wikipedia page. It's only a couple paragraphs. But he was born in September of 1979 and died in 2023. And like I said, was a Palestinian writer, poet, professor, and activist from the Gaza Strip. He was born in Gaza City in 1979, so I'm a couple years older than him. And that was during the Israeli occupation of the Gaza Strip at that time, which he said had negatively influenced every move and decision he made. Al-Arir earned a bachelor's degree in English in 2001 from the Islamic University of Gaza and an MA from the University College of London in 2007. He also earned a PhD in English literature at the University Putra in Malaysia in 2017. I'm going to make my screen bigger. And with her dissertation on John Donne. And he taught literature and creative writing at the Islamic University of Gaza and co-founded the organization We Are Not Numbers, which matched experienced authors with young writers in Gaza and promoted the power of storytelling as a means of Palestinian resistance against the Israeli occupation. And as I was mentioning earlier, on December of last year, 2023, he was killed by an Israeli airstrike in northern Gaza, along with his brother, his sister, 4 of his nephews. And during the occupation, and that was during this most recent occupation, the Euromed Monitor released a statement saying that Al-Arir was apparently deliberately targeted, surgically bombed his space in an entire building, and came after weeks of death threats that Rafit received online by phone from Israeli accounts. And on April 26, 2024, his eldest daughter and his newborn grandchild were also killed in an airstrike. This is so unbelievable. I can barely read this without choking up, but let me find you guys again. Let's hear the poem, Carlos, and we'll come back right after that.
If I must die, you must live. To tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings, make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel's there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope. Let it be a tale.
Wow, very powerful. Thank you, Carlos, for getting that on.
You're
And
welcome.
just a reminder to everybody that, again, as I mentioned, we're going to dedicate the open mic to the Poets for Palestine on October 25th, this Friday, down at the Lynn House. And if we get these vendors together and talk to Jose tomorrow and assure him that some folks will be there, the vendors will be 5:30 to 7:30. And then the poetry will be from 7:30 till about 10 or 10:30, depending on how many poets sign up for the open mic. So we just want to invite you all to come on out and join us for the open mic poetry night. It looks like we lost our two guests. I was hoping they would stay on and say something about the poet and the Palestinian poets, but I was almost choking up trying to read just his Wikipedia page. How many they killed. Oh, you're back. Hey, I was just saying that I was like trying not to choke up when I was reading Rafit's just his Wikipedia page, which I'm sure is a little bit I don't want to say sanitized, but you know how Wikipedia could be. But how many of his family members were actually killed along with him, and then even after he was gone, that they continued to be killed. Yashra, would you like to say anything about the poet and Palestinian poets?
Yes, so Rifat El Arir is he was an amazing man because he actually published several books about voices from Gaza, where he would have young people write their stories in their own words in short essays, and he has several published books that you could actually buy from people from Gaza. And he was really a trailblazer in that sense of trying to open that communication with the West, from Gaza to the West. And he was targeted actually when he was killed. He received a phone call. One of his friends had reported this. He received a phone call or a message telling him that they will be killing him. And so he moved. He was in a UN school where everyone was sheltering. So he moved specifically because he knew that they would be targeting him. And it's actually really gory to think about, but his body has not been recovered, so he did not get to receive a proper burial. And that just that's like a little snapshot of what people in Gaza are dealing with on a daily basis. They don't even have time to grieve. We held a vigil in Dublin commemorating a year of genocide around October 7. And one of our speakers, who was a Palestinian who lives here but has family in Gaza, told us that she was very touched by the vigil because really they don't have a chance to grieve. It's, you learn someone has passed away, someone has been killed, and there's nothing you can do. You're constantly trying to find updates about your family. You're constantly moving forward. And so that's another thing, is Rifat's family really did not get a chance to give him a proper burial. And shortly after, this poem that he wrote for his daughter, Shayma. And she was killed a few months after him. So in that sense, I think everyone who hears this poem has a responsibility to carry on his message.
It's hard to talk right now after hearing all that.
I got you. No, that's important that we keep talking, and art is a form of healing and a way to tell history. And just like our natives, our African American histories, our the Aztec history, the Mayan history that was erased, we cannot allow that. We need to keep the cultures alive and what's left. Yeah, no, please. Thank you so much for sharing all of this info. It's a shame. It's the world and what it's depressing. So that we're here, but the least we can do is continue to talk and continue to share, and just never forget these atrocities on human life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no.
mean, to add on to your point, I think uh, many communities who have a history of ancestors who have been colonized, they see themselves in Gaza and they see themselves in Palestine, and so it's very emotional to talk about it and to bear witness to the atrocities, because you feel this is what my grandparents, my great grandparents went through, but now you're seeing it live on your phone. So it's very difficult. Like, I've had many conversations with many different people, and I had a Kashmiri sister whose Kashmir is occupied right now currently by India. She just broke down crying in front of me. She's like, it's just, when you're handling something for your own people, you're like, my people, this is what's happening to them. You feel this is contained to my people, right? And then you see it, a mirror reflection of it in someone else. It's very hurtful. It's very difficult to deal with. But I like to think about the day after, and I like to think about 10, 20, 30 years from now, when maybe my children, my grandchildren don't know about this occupation. They don't know that it existed, or they're learning about it from the books, right? And I like to imagine a better future. And for us to have this better future, we need to preserve this kind of culture of the poets and the artists and reflections of this culture, and we need to just move it forward for tomorrow. That's what, for me, that's what keeps me going, is instead of just being depressed in bed, we're going to go out and do something, because eventually everything ends, right? Eventually, at some point, all of these oppressions come to an end. So we're working towards that eventually.
And I'll just add that I think, as Julie said before she left, and I think she was almost kind of quoting Aaron Bushnell when he was talking about that we weren't there. What would you have done if you were there during the Holocaust and you were witnessing that? What would you have done if you were there during slavery? And what choices would you have made? What would you do if your country was committing genocide? And he said, whatever you're doing it right now, because our country is complicit in this genocide. In fact, it would not be happening without our green light, our go ahead, our weapons, our money, the military shipments that are happening on a regular basis. And it's amazing to me how much of the world says no. The world has protested, from the smallest countries to some of the biggest countries. Thousands of people in the street. The Golden Gate Bridge was shut down. The Bay Bridge was shut down. So much was happening. Jewish Voice for Peace, you mentioned earlier, how Jewish allies have spoken out to say, you're not going to use what happened to us, a terrible genocide that we all learn about in our school. You're not going to take our story and justify what you're doing to the Palestinian people. So for me, when Julie said, "What are you doing, and what can we tell our children?" I'm glad that we're here having this discussion. We've been out in the streets. When we've been out protesting and marching, even on social media, you could speak out and share to keep the word flowing. And I'll be real quick before I forget again, because I wanted to mention this a couple of times. I'm working on a small interactive story tree that I'm gonna place at the Poets open mic, and it's gonna have QR codes on your phone with fast links to TikToks or short YouTube videos about Hind Rajab, so you can learn about Hind, about Reem, the soul of my soul. Maybe you could help me. It's killing me just to even think of it. but the young man that was burned the other day. Can you remind me his name? Do you know it?
I remember his last name, but I forgot his first name, unfortunately. I think his last name was Al Dalulu. He was, yeah, that was difficult. So actually, Frank, let's touch base, because our exhibit, we created 230 around 230 posters, unique posters of a child on each poster, one child, their picture, their story. And we set it up at all our events like a graveyard. And the reason is, you hear the numbers, but they're not personal. And we wanted to bring everyone's story so that people can realize it's not 10,300. This is a person, this is someone's daughter. This is someone's son. They were loved, their family grieves them. They liked soccer, like maybe your child likes soccer. And so we could also share that resource with you, Frank. It would be beautiful for your event. And we have a lot of resources on our website as well, links to these stories that you were talking about. But it's important, it's interesting because people who are hateful are very loud, but I believe they're a minority, and the majority of people are not hateful people. And I was watching a news piece a few days ago, and it was talking about boycotting because of what's happening in Palestine. And can you guess how many people boycott right now regarding Palestine? Like, if you could give it a percentage.
5%.
Okay. Anyone else want to take a guess?
Are you talking about like just in support of Palestine, boycotting?
Yeah, you're boycotting because of what's happening in Palestine. How many people are doing that?
Oh man, but you said
Out of the world, right?
I say 7.
I'm gonna say like 1%.
1 in 3 people. 1 in 3
Okay,
people.
so-
That's 33%.
Okay.
They're boycotting because of what's
That's
happening in
good.
Palestine worldwide. So
Power.
you think
Good,
it's
I'm
just
glad it's
me?
better.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, I was actually surprised. I thought it would be lower too. But you think, oh, I'm the only one who's, caring about this. I'm the only one who's upset about it. Other people are upset and they're voting with their money. They're voting with their wallet. So we just think we're alone because we're not loud. People have work to go to. We have lives. We have things to do. We don't have the time to just constantly, be loud about everything, right? Like maybe other groups do. So I just mentioned that to say it's not most people, your neighbor, your friends, your coworkers are probably upset about this. They just haven't shared it.
Oh,
I
you're on
think
mute
that's
there.
thank you. I think that's a good point to get into. You mentioned voting. Votes matter. There's been a lot of leadership that have spoken up, leadership that's been silent for strategic or maybe whatever. But it's important that we elect leaders that are aware and empathetic of humanity and the destruction that's happening. And how can society take part? How can governments take part? How can organizations and communities take part in stopping this? So Nicole, she's been we have another guest. She's another co-host. So welcome, Nicole. Thank you for chilling with us and listening in. And I know you have some info to share around voting. Anything you want to put out to our community with those updates?
Okay. I first want to say, because it literally irks my soul so much that people don't care, because it is a whole genocide. And my family, not only am I a descendant of slaves, but I'm also Native American. So, and it bothers me so much that people who are always talking about never forget about the Holocaust are being the most hateful people. And then whenever you say anything against them doing anything wrong, because somehow it's never anything wrong that they do, you're anti-Semitic. Now, one thing I do know how to do is read and research and study. I know who I am. I know my bloodline. I know my identity. And I also know what Semitic means. And for some strange reason, people don't think to look in dictionaries or anywhere because it's really simple. You look up Semitic, which I've been looking up for years. They've changed it a little bit in some of the dictionaries because they try to erase history in dictionaries as well. But if you Google it today, right now, Semitic, it still says Afro-Asiatic family. That's Semitic. So when people are calling people anti-Semitic, because there's a lot of people hating Black people, and it clearly says Afro-Asiatic, okay? So people need to get it right of who's actually Semitic. So we can really, hey, I'm just saying, I like the truth. I like for people to understand things. Don't be willfully ignorant. Learn how to read and research things. It's a genocide going on. They've been trying to wipe these people out forever. And we know this. And just because you want to show a movie about it, you're not anti-Semitic, especially since the definition of Semitic is completely wrong of what people think. So that's just that on that. And then, so good luck with your showing. I hope it goes off with no issues. And
Thank
then
you. I appreciate that, Nicole. I
you're
actually want
welcome.
to share that we have had more people buy tickets even after we changed the booking. So
Good.
people they genuinely do want to attend and support. And, it's not, like I said, it's not even locals who are against this. And the majority of people are supportive. I think we get down on the news because it is depressing, but the majority of people are supportive and they are loving.
I'm very happy to hear that. And I know Frank has been tirelessly for months and months and months and months and months. He's probably out, but he's been on this entire time, trying to get everybody, raise awareness and try to get everybody to speak out, which we have spoken out at city councils. We've definitely done that, but it's still not enough everywhere. And, unfortunately, we know America doesn't care about genocide. So what can we expect? And then as far as the voting goes, it's gotten to the point where the slander and the lies have trickled down to the high school. And the babies have come out to the city councils. They've come out in Pittsburgh, they've come out in Antioch so far, and they're speaking out against it because they're tired of getting mailers of lies and slander. It's supposed to be adults showing children how to be when they grow up, but yet, we have certain people, Mike Barbanica, who can't run on his merit. So instead, he wants to slander Chanel. So, I'm tired of being nice and trying to not say his name because he's done a lot of shady things in the background. His son is PD in Pittsburgh, and you're forcing the Pittsburgh Police Officers Association to back you, and that's not what they want to do. They've gotten so much backlash behind that because they know that he's out here lying and slandering. He owns so much property, it's not even funny. His realty company is called Blue Line, which we know that's Back the Blue, but Blue Line Realty, you're making it really clear where you stand and where your mindset is and what people you are concerned about. We've been going to these council meetings for years now. He's never been about anything that we stand for, which is housing and justice and all these things we fight for. Never. But now you want to be supervisor and have even more control over the county, right, over a bigger, larger area, and do nothing. So no, we absolutely say no to Mike Barbanica. All your tactics, all your signs, everything you're doing, it's not going to work. Chanel Scales Preston for Supervisor District 5. And then on the propositions, I'm sure everybody knows pretty much yes for a majority of the props. 33, 32, obviously we want to raise the minimum wage. 33 is very important. And I want people to research and look at who's behind it. Whenever you see the California Apartment Association and corporations, you know you want to do the opposite of what they're saying. Yes on 33, no on 34, because 34 cancels out the yes for 33. They slipped the little housing something excerpt in there at the end. So don't be fooled by 34. It's not a good thing. We're trying to get rid of Costa Hawkins so that everyone can have affordable housing, not just people who live in apartments that were built after 1995. So if you rent a home, you don't get rent control. But if we pass 33, you get rent control now. And 34 is trying to stop that. So yes, 33, no 34. And then I'm also no for 35 and 36 because I'm scared of the 3-strike rule coming back again. I feel like 36 is just reminiscent of, it's just going to be Black people like, oh, you have 2 prior, so guess what? You're going to jail for life. I just see that. So I can't in good conscience vote yes for 36. I can't do it. So that's my no's and that's that. If you live in Pittsburgh, Measure P, yes, because we want to take care of the schools. And if you need any other, we have other people too. So, I mean, I can run down the list of all the people in Pittsburgh. It's up to you if you want me to say that.
Yeah, no, I mean, we could run down our list for Antioch, Pittsburgh. Board of Supervisors is just like really the biggest one, though.
Yeah, Chanel.
The Board of Supervisors should know because we know Mike Barbanica, the sheriffs. So there's this thing, right? The Go Big guaranteed income pilot that was passed, and there's folks really hating on it.
I know.
Guess who's hating on it? Guess what blog page it is?
Well, we already know. We already
know, right? But the thing is, I wish we had that same energy for all of the money, millions that have been spent to violate people's rights and to violate human rights, and the pensions and payments going to these folks on administrative is just unacceptable.
That's why I said it, y'all. You never think twice when there's more money for the police. You never think twice when it's more money for war. But when it's to help the poor, you got to think about it.
Indeed.
Right?
Thank you, y'all.
So, but yeah, Adam Schiff twice. We have John Garamendi. We have Marisol Rubio, because now though I like Tim Grayson, unfortunately, is not above taking money from big pharma, from corporations, gasoline, whatever, tobacco, doesn't matter, and he's not for women's rights. And I'm sorry, no one has the right to tell us what to do with our body. I don't care what we think morally. That's not our place. That's the Lord's place. So we don't get to feel like you can't have an abortion, because some abortions are medically necessary. So, and I'm sorry, I absolutely, and if anybody I know agrees that if a baby is raped and she's pregnant and she's forced to have a baby, we don't talk to me ever again in life, because that is absolutely unacceptable. I have a real problem with pedophiles. I have a real problem with rapists. So no, you're not going to tell a 9-year-old child that she has to have a baby because she was raped. Unacceptable. So I literally had to cut people off because they were like, oh, that's God's plan. First of all, don't put God into that, because he has nothing to do with that. Nothing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, we got 1 minute left. That was very informational. Support all local creatives telling stories, uplifting the voiceless, and never forgetting this this point in history. We can't forget this. Thank you, Frank. Thank you for coming through. Thank you, Miss Nicole. Always advocating. We're out there. We're taking it all to the county. We're maxed out in Antioch. We need unincorporated cities to be accounted for, because we know landlords, abuse of power, have been taking advantage in these unincorporated cities. So let's hit the county, okay, people, beautiful people. Any last thoughts before we close out in honor of Palestine, in honor of the people, in honor of history, in honor of Timothy Charles Lee, that we went out to the city of Concord last night to go and remind people, ask the city council to reopen the case of Timothy Charles Lee because there's substantiating evidence that proves otherwise. He did not commit suicide. There were burn marks on him. There was evidence missing. He had a scholarship to Milan, Italy for his fashion design career. He did not kill himself. Let's reopen that case for Frank and his family, for Timothy Charles Lee. And we have an action coming up at Todos Santos Plaza. We'll be marching from the Rainbow Community Center in the city of Concord. And we'll be marching to the BART station where he was found hanging.
And I knew as a child when I heard that he didn't, I'm sorry, he did not hang himself. No one's going to go hang themselves outside on a tree, especially in Concord.
Yeah, thanks for bringing up my cousin Timmy. And maybe if next week's not booked, we could spend a little more time talking about Timothy and sharing his story and reminding people about his memorial walk, which will be next Saturday, Day of the Dead, at the Rainbow Community Center. Yes.
And we're trying to work on getting the mayor to put that on the agenda.
I mean, I'll go and get all these damn records. Let me get the work logs from the BART station on the day and the day before. Let me get the work logs of the police department that day. I want names. All those names are logged. Let's get it.
Yeah, so I look forward to continuing that work, and I'll keep you all posted about Timmy and our work to get his case reopened. And thanks for having us on and inviting our guests.
Most definitely, Don Carlos. What you want to bless us with?
Let me unmute here. So again, we got the poetry slam this Friday. We don't know if, she was very confident as far as saying that she'll get vendors for us. So I'll be there. That sounds so interesting, try some Palestinian food. So also the poetry slam will start at 7:00, right?
I thought it was 7:30.
Frank's on mute.
Just like Nicole said, I believe it's 7:30, but we can double check. I have the flyer.
Oh yeah, that's right. 7:30. That's right. So anyway, that's downtown Antioch on First Street at the, what is that? The Lynn House.
The Lynn House. Right? From the Amtrak station.
Mm-hmm. It's right there. It's the only house on First Street. The other building is a school. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you guys for being on the show. Until next week, we're at our new time, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So tune in. I gotta change this flyer. Oh man, it was like a funny look. Watch, look.
Look.
Look, it says Thursday.
Yeah,
anyway.
You got it.
So anyway, thank you guys all for your time. You guys are the voices, and we just trying to be heard. That's all, So anyway, peace, love, and we'll see you next time.
See you on Friday.
Most